Welcome back to Astrology for Gang Traders, the preview, and this is part 2. Now, important part of the foundation of astrology is understanding the elements, and here we have the fire signs, Aries, Leo and Sagittarius. They are known as self-starters. They have great faith, enthusiasm, very excitable, and known as pioneers. Now, on the negative side, if there's too much fire, they can be quite destructive, impatient, impulsive, cause exhaustion, and quite overpowering. Also, we need to understand the fundamental formations in the heavens, and here we have what is known as the mutable cross or the grand mutable square. You can see the square within the circle. Now, this is known as a mutable square because it involves immutable signs, and they are Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius and Pisces. So these are the 4 mutable signs. Now, across the dial, which they're always 180 degrees apart, is Gemini and Sagittarius, and the other 2 across the dial is the 6th and the 12th, or Virgo and Pisces. Now you can see why this can either be called a cross or a square. Here's our square again, but also we have our cross. We have 4 planets positions involved. Now there will be times in the heavens when there's actually 1 planet each of these points, and this is when we have what is called a grand square, and being a mutable one. So this is very important. It's a very hard energy. They're forming a hard aspect known as either an opposition across the dial, or this one here, from this point to here, is a square, meaning 90 degrees apart. So we'll learn more about these as we get into depth in the aspects lesson. Also, we need to understand all the astrological houses and what they represent in our life, and also if you're wanting to understand corporation charts of companies and stocks that you want to trade, we need to understand what these houses are all about. So the houses of substance are to do with the earth signs, and here we have the 2nd house is the Taurus house, and this is to do with the accumulation of money, and the 6th house is Virgo, which is to do with work and occupation, and the 10th house is to the Capricorn house, which is profession and reputation. Now these 3 signs are earth, the element of earth, so it's very practical. They're the key words are stability, material wealth, business and tenacity. Gann's emblem. Within a circle is a square and a triangle. He writes, there's our circle, there's our square, and there's our triangle. Now, as I just explained, this was the square that I showed you within the circle, called a grand square, and then we have another formation here which is called a grand trine, and so that is the foundation of the Gann emblem. And as astrologers, we know this to be very important in terms of formations in the heavens or relationship between planets. Well, one example is what we call harmonics. Now, harmonic is a word meaning that anytime you divide a circle, which is usually 360 degrees, when you divide it by a certain harmonic, this one being the 8th harmonic, you get 45 degrees or 45 degree segments when you divide it by 8. Now, astrologers know these to be called aspects. So this aspect of 45 is actually called a semi-square, and that is the symbol for it. And the 45 is known to it cause irritation that generates action. So it is classified as a negative aspect, but not as difficult as a square, which is double its size. Now, why are these aspects important? Well, we need to understand them because in terms of trading and using astrology, we want to understand when certain planets make aspects between each other and how they affect the market. So what I've plotted here, this is on a weekly chart on the S&P again is every time the Sun is semi-square Venus. Now the vertical lines, these bigger gaps here, are 24 weeks apart, and these smaller gaps here are these little period. What happens at irregularity in the cycle is because we have something called a retrograde movement of planets, and this is Venus. Every time Venus goes retrograde, but you can see how amazing that cycle is. Now here we have something we need to understand also, is an aspect grid. This is actually W.D.Gann's aspect grid, and what it shows is basically the relationship between the planets in the natal chart. So if we have a look at the first planet being the Moon over here, does it have an aspect? You can see that in the little box there's no aspect, there's no symbol in there, meaning that the Sun and the Moon have no aspect or relationship that we know of in his chart. But if we go down, we can see that Mercury is actually square, and that's what astrologers are looking to see. You can see the Moon is square Mercury, and then we go down another one and we can see that the Moon is actually trine Venus, and that's what it looks like. Trine, remember, is, well, I haven't told you, but it's 120 degrees. You can see the trine there. Now there's no Mars aspect, there's no Jupiter aspect, no Saturn aspect, but there is a conjunction to Uranus. So conjunction means they're together. There's no Neptune, and there is a Pluto, a square to Pluto, and so that's what we're looking at. So the Moon is square Pluto in Gann's chart. Now this is also important, not just for natal astrology. You can actually look at this on a daily basis and see how many aspects and what sort of aspects, giving you an indication of what to expect for that day. Now the last lesson has to do with chart interpretation. Basically, you're given lots of keys in astrology and lots of symbolism, and half of the time you don't know what to do with it. And as part of the experience of doing more and more charts is actually understanding how to bring all the puzzle pieces together and actually make a picture and understand what it's all about. And that's the whole point of this chart, is bringing all the symbolism together. And people say to me, why do we need to learn all this basic symbolism and to construct a chart? Well, you need to know the foundation. You need to crawl before you walk. And also, if you do want to actually take a bit of a look at tunnel through the air, I mean, that is Gann's gold there. If you do want to go there, you're going to have to understand some of the symbolism, because it's in there and you can't decode it without having the language. So I hope you enjoy my presentation, and this is end of part 2, and you'll visit my website. Thank you very much.